that is why we are here. Keep watching Newspunch from the television today. To economy, business, technology, the totality of what makes man is what we bring to you here on Newspunch. We give you the information that you need, from business to economy, to politics, to technology. And that's what we do here on Newspunch, from the beginning to the end. And that is why we are here. Keep watching Newspunch from the television today.
Let's go! Of the greatest dance. Another challenge, another challenge. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be justice. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be justice. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be freedom. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be freedom. Freedom. Water run away, my God. Remember the dictatorship, I remember Buhari. Water run away, my God. When I remember Buhari, I remember lifelessness. Water run away, my God. When I remember decisions, I remember joblessness. Water run away, my God. Run away. You are not going to do it. You are not going to stop. America must not allow military. America must not allow anarchy. America must not allow. America should understand that Nigeria is the bedrock of African continent. Nigeria affects Africa.
Oh yes, we were told that he has a case answer. Okay, and don't forget that the Court of Appeal has, restrained the Code of Conduct Tribunal. I will never follow you to raise this anywhere. See Buhari, if you see Oshibajo,
we came here today to send a message loud and clear to the whole world that our constitutional governance is under siege, that the president is about to crash constitutional democracy. Yesterday, he committed a grave act of treason when he used a forged document that came from Umadan Ladi to announce the factionalization of the Supreme Court. We want to say that as long as we are concerned and the Constitution is concerned, that we do not recognize the factional CJN he has enthroned. The Chief Justice of the Federation still remain Justice Walter Onogem, and Nigerian people are with him. We are asking the foreign missions to activate the message they issued some few days ago to place on visa ban and international arrest warrant the likes of Danla Duma, the Attorney General of the Federation, Justice Tanko Mohammed, and that the NJC should convene immediately and suspend Justice Tanko Mohammed, because they have a rule already set in the case of the Abia CJN that when you take up such appointment in acting capacity without the recommendation of the NJC, you stand expelled from the bench.
The detail of why we're here is unfortunate that most of us are sleeping and Nigeria is derailing, you know, and this kind of thing cannot be allowed to go for too long. I mean, we can now start to see the handwriting on the wall, you know, and for all the exceptional few who have decided to stand up and fight this fight, all I can say is to encourage you like I've always done, you know, and because if we don't do nothing now, we'll have ourselves to blame sooner than later. We'll have ourselves to blame. So I'm here, as usual, to give support to the exceptional people who want to stand out and who know the right thing to do to stand up for their right and fight for our beloved country, Nigeria.
Let me explain something to the lay people. This is a time, this is a call of freedom. This is the only opportunity we have to free Nigeria. If you are in Lagos, if you are in Sokoto,
Thank you for joining us on the program today. My name is Tunde Alabi. It's a pleasure to have you join on the program. What you've been seeing is a couple of demonstrations that have been happening in Lagos since the incident that happened between the president and the Chief Justice of the Federation, and up till the time they knew the acting Chief Justice was sworn in by President Muhammadu Buhari. But quickly, in the next 27 minutes, we'll be taking a look at the position. You will remember that immediately the president so in the acting CJN, international communities, including the US, the UK, the EU, issued what they call international notices, what we will consider like warnings to Nigeria, expressing grave concern about what these actions of Mr. President suspending the CJN and swearing in and acting could have on the forthcoming election. Joining me on the program today, I have three gentlemen that will be taking a look at the program, this issue in the next couple of minutes, and then we'll come back next week. The three of us will come back next week to look at the development again. Quickly, let me introduce to my immediate left, Dr. Idao Philip. Dr. Idao Philip is the APC chairman, UK, here in the United Kingdom. Doctor, thank you for joining us on the program. Led by him is Kingsley Oyemenen. Kingsley Oyemenen is barrister, and he is also a barrister in Nigeria and also a solicitor here in the United Kingdom. He is of a KC Law Chamber Solicitors here in London, and also attorney in the US. Kingsley, thank you for joining us on the program. I'm also joined by Mr. Marquin Matter. He is the chair PDP in the United Kingdom. It's a full house. Unfortunately, we can't deal with this today, so we've got to come back next week when we see what is happening after today. Now, let me start with Dr. Idao. Your view and assessment of the action of the Mr. President and the statements released by the international community expressing fear, grave concern about the action of Mr. President in suspending the CJN and appointing an acting one in that role.
Yeah, so two questions you have asked me.
Probably.
Yeah, so I'll take them one after the other.
Go on.
The first one is the suspension or the action of Mr. President in suspending the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Onogen.
Was that step taken in the right direction?
I mean, I think that Nigeria is in a difficult situation. It's a difficult place, and people are expecting that we should be carrying out the reformation of our country in the conventional sense. Okay, this man, the question that Nigerians need to ask themselves and the international community need to ask is, this man, is he guilty of the charges that were levied against him? If the answer is yes, one expected that as the arbiter, the head of the Nigerian legal system, Honor demanded that he should have resigned or stepped aside because he could not preside over his own, couldn't preside over his own judgment. But he refused to, egged on by the opposition. That is the first thing. The second part of it.
Let's put you on hold there.
Yeah.
Kingsley, let me leave you. Let me go to the chair of PDP. Do you want to react to that? He said, well, the man is guilty of this offense. He should have stepped aside. But how do we determine guilt and how do we determine being stepped aside? What is your position?
Well, I need to make it clear that the PDP and most Nigerians would not tolerate any wrongdoing in any form or shape.
Are you saying the action of the president is a wrongdoing? What are you saying? Or are you saying Onoge's action is a wrongdoing? Which one is the wrongdoing there?
Well, when Mr. President was inaugurated, the first time he said he was going to ensure the rule of law in Nigeria. And in May 2016, at the Commonwealth Summit, he reiterated that he's going to ensure due process. He's going to ensure that democracy grows and blossoms in Nigeria, following the rule of law. Now, I'm not saying that Walter Onogen is not wrong. I'm not saying he's right. So what I'm saying is that due process should be followed. Now, Walter is removed because of a petition. Is he the first person to be petitioned? What about Amechi? What about Fayemi? What about Babachi Lawal? And so on, so many to mention. What about Umar Al-Ladi himself?
Let's talk.
What about these people?
Let's 1 minute.
And we have had these petitions for these people, against these people, more than 2-3 years back. Nothing has come out of it. Suddenly, a petition that was submitted between the 7th and the 9th of January.
The speed.
You can only imagine.
Okay.
The swiftness.
So what you're saying is that the action of Mr. President
shows,
can read meanings to that.
Yes, shows some selective act of justice.
Okay,
I wouldn't call that justice either.
Let's come to the lawyer in the house, Kingsley.
Okay,
From the angle of the law.
I think I'm a bit political neutral here when it comes to
it. You do.
Now, if I can address first of all what the good doctor here has said.
Yes.
And I happen to have a copy of that order, Tunde, and I'll come to it. Now, before you're found guilty, there's a due process that must be followed.
Yes.
Presently, what we have is a situation where an allegation has been made. Now, there are three arms of government, as we know it. The executive, judiciary, and the third arm. Now, legislature. Now, for the president to take and usurp, and I think I see this as usurping the power of the judiciary, and also bypassing the Senate, whose duty it is. Because when you talk about actually appointment of the CJN, it's not the president that appoints the CJN. It's recommendation by the NJC. Now, when they recommend, it's 2/3 majority of the Senate that must appoint. Do you understand? And confirm. So the procedures have not been followed. I mean, I've had chats with quite a few of my colleagues, and some of them say to me, well, we have an order. But if you look at this order, it's very questionable. First of all, if you look at the bottom side of this order, there's no usually, somebody who appears before a high court judge must probably be a lawyer, a barrister, who made this application. Now, there's no person here. So we have suddenly a ghost who goes before and makes an ex parte order. This order was made on the 23rd and granted on the 23rd, an ex parte order without notice to the CJN himself or his lawyers. Then we had on the 24th, the parties appeared before the judge and the judge gave an order to stay proceedings in this particular case. Like I said, it's an allegation. So this here is, as far as I'm concerned, not enforceable. And I really question those who say that they are judicial officers and they've taken this particular action. I think we've got to be very frank, put politics aside and let's look at legality. It is completely, it's an institution of power today.
Dr. Dawo, there are processes. First, the NJC should act. Now, this case is before the tribunal. A court of appeal, which is a higher court of jurisdiction, gave an order, so a stay proceeding. The tribunal did not, backdated, and then went ahead, advised Mr. President on an action that is still before the court of law and where a superior court has given a kind of an order. Would you think Mr. President is right, genuinely? He wants to fight corruption, but in your view, you are in the Western world. Did he follow the steps required by law?
As I said earlier, I think that as a Nigerian or somebody who is very, very much interested in reforming our country, the greatest threat, the greatest threat to our democracy, the greatest threat to the survival of our country, okay, is and remains corruption, especially in our judiciary.
What about disobeying? What about the rule of law? Obedience to the rule of law, staying with the rule of law.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I will say this. I don't think that Mr. President, okay, has disobeyed any rule or any court order. He had an order to suspend. He certainly has not. He hasn't sacked Justice Onoge. He didn't sack him. He suspended him.
Let's go back to the lawyer. What did this order say?
If we look at
what did it say? What did he advise Mr. President to do?
Okay, yeah. If you look at this order, let me just quickly read quite through. It's an interim order.
Yes.
Tribunal, I'm going to skip the preamble. Tribunal orders. An interim order of the Honorable Tribunal directing that the defendant, respondent, to step aside as the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the Chairman of the National Judicial Council.
Step aside?
Yes.
One.
Go on. Secondly, an interim order of the Honorable directing that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to take all necessary measures to swear in the most senior Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Now, this order here, questionable, doesn't mention the function of the NJC and the Senate, whose role are very pivotal in this particular proceeding.
But the question I want to come up with is, this order said the CJN should step aside, not suspended.
He says should step
even
aside.
Even if Tunde,
there is a second part.
That was not.
The President should take all necessary steps.
But you see,
the CJN refused to step aside. 1, 2. The CJN.
So if the CJN refuses to step aside, then the second order is unenforceable. What the President should have done is it not to go back to the court that he has refused to step aside. Can you make another order empowering the President to take all necessary action to force him out?
No, but it's there. I said take all necessary steps.
Yes, go on, sir.
He said that the President has never disobeyed any order. He has severally. What about the Osiki's case?
You are going back to other things. We are talking about this case.
Well, let's look at the rule of law generally. Why should the President suddenly decide to obey this court order and then disobey all other previous court orders?
Well, as I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a history.
But you know that there have been court orders that Mr. President in previous times has refused to follow.
Usually, in such instances, there are valid and cogent reasons.
What are the reasons for disobeying the court, the rule of law?
And that was a crucial point.
This is why I said
we had
the biggest threat. Sorry, the biggest threat to the survival of democracy in Nigeria is corruption, especially corruption amongst the judicial officers of our country.
Disobedience of the law. Disobedience of the law is not corruption.
Can I put the two of you on hold? Yes. Let's go back to the lawyer in the house.
Now, I think to a great extent, I accept that the corruption is a threat. But when you have a particular arm of government who decides to carry out the function of the others, that's the greatest of threat, because you're talking about the grassroots of democracy here. Now, this order was obtained on the 23rd. On the 24th, the parties appeared before the Superior Court. Now, you would expect that because an order was granted, that this would have been brought to the attention of the judge in question. This was never brought up. So this was hidden and kept without any question. Now, for a barrister or the attorney who appeared before this judge, these are matters of disciplinary issues, and there are code of conduct points that you have to look at. Now, let's look at the person. Let's talk about the issue of Dr. says about how would I put it? Fraud and the rest of
Corruption,
it.
yeah.
Corruption, as it may be. My apologies. That sort of skipped me. Now, the individual who gave this order, if you recall, he also has been alleged. There was a case of 10 million naira fraud.
Himself is also in the court.
Being investigated by the EFCC.
Being prosecuted. Not
Thank you very much, Tunde. Now, if we're actually going to come to equity, we have to come to equity with clean hands.
That's it.
The president knows that the person who had given this order is a person of questionable character. Why would you not ask him to step aside? Why would you then appoint that particular individual?
Doctor, bearing in mind that Danladi himself is also being prosecuted by the EFCC, shouldn't the president have asked him to step aside? Why should he preside over a corruption case when himself is being prosecuted for corruption?
The court that EFCC took Justice Danladi to, have they issued an order to Mr. President to act like this, and the man refused to act? Is there anything of that sort? You can help us.
I think I can help you. We could ask the same question with this.
Yes.
Because this order in itself is flawed. And because it's flawed, and because we have a superior judgment from a higher court, this order becomes null and void. And if, in effect, because you're simply saying to me that a lower court has authority over a higher court judgment, and it's nowhere in the land, in any part of the world, that happens. And if we look at the consistency of this government, the last time we're on this show today, it's always been about the fact that the government of our present president always tend to take the law into their own hands. And we have to question it, and we have to come out and speak against it.
Okay, all right, Kingsley, let me put it on hold. Let's go back to Mr. Marquin. The EU, the UK, and the US have come out to express grave concern. At the moment, Nigeria has said, what is the problem? Why are they interfering? Would you say that the EU's expression of concern is an interference in an independent jurisdiction like Nigeria?
Now, I will remind you, in 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja praised particularly the government of the United States for making the election of 2015 a success. Why did he do that? Because they actually ensured a free, fair, credible election. And that is what they will continue to do. Why is he crying foul now?
Let's come back to, well, Dr. Dow. In 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari praised the US especially for its role in that election that brought him in. Why is the president and his aides and his minister crying foul now?
Well, I don't
the same country that supported and assisted the election that brought you in now say, look, what you're doing is working contrary to the principle in which you were brought in, and then he's complaining. Why, Dr. Dow?
I don't think that you can marry the events of 2015 and the years before that.
Is the US, do you consider the US fear about Mr. President's action and the election an interference?
I wouldn't say it's an interference, and I'll tell you why. We live in a very globalized world at this point in time. So it's very difficult for you to say that something is happening in one part of the world and other countries will not pay attention. It is obvious that if anything is happening in Nigeria, countries that are friends of Nigeria, countries that have businesses and other forms of relationship with Nigeria, they will definitely come on and speak their minds. So in that sense, I don't call it interference. It is they have expressed their views. They have expressed their opinion, which I think they are entitled to do.
So would you say the aides of the government, Mr. President and his minister, who are saying that the US, the UK, EU shouldn't interfere are wrong?
Again, they are not wrong. They have a right to respond. They do have a right. They do have a right to... Look, I have said it.
So if you know that they have the right to respond,
yes,
and you believe they have the right to respond, why is your party and your government,
yes,
the government of Nigeria, saying they shouldn't, that they are wrong?
Look, the countries that have reacted to issues in Nigeria, okay, because of their relationship with Nigeria, they have a right to speak up their mind.
Kingsley.
Now, our government, our party, have a right to respond to these governments and tell them, look, you are speaking out of no clear understanding. 1, 2, you are speaking not in the best interest of Nigeria. I repeat, the greatest threat today to the continued growth and development of Nigeria is corruption.
What about disobedience to the rule of law?
You are as
what keeps a country going if not the rule of law?
The rule of law, the rule of law that people are mouthing all over the place presumes that the arbiters of those rules are living above board, that they are living according to the dictates of their own profession.
Kingsley.
I think I deal with your question today. I would prefer that no external countries interfere in Nigerian affairs, but if only we as Nigerians can actually take care of our own problems. Unfortunately,
can I remind you that the US, the UK, and the EU are financial contributors to Nigeria's election.
Exactly.
They fund Nigeria's election.
Correct.
To a great extent.
Very true.
And when they see what they are funding going down the drain, shouldn't they respond?
It's not necessarily just that only, but it's also the fact that, you see, this single action has a domino effect on investors. You find, I mean, it's just of recent that investors have started having a bit of hope, trust in the Nigerian economy and the rulership of Nigeria. Present action by the present president has that effect, that investors are wondering what is going to happen next. Now, those countries who have, investors in our country, in Nigeria, obviously have an interest, like the US and Britain, as it were, and most other European Union countries. So for the fact that they actually, put this warning out there, it's crucial. We need to listen to it. I'm not saying they should interfere in our affairs, but I think it's important that we listen to it. And it also goes to show you that they have seen the handwriting on the wall, and they understand that this particular action by our president is wrong, and it's ultra-virus.
I wouldn't call it interference, Kingsley. Just as you said, if your friend sees that you are going wrong, it is right to call your attention to it. And why is it that when these leaders are sick, they run here, or the US, or to the EU? Or when they send their children to schools, to the EU, to Britain, or to the United States, and so on and so forth. Why then would the EU, the UK, and the United States not advise the Nigerian government? Especially when they see clearly that they are destroying the democracy.
Okay, all right, guys. I've got 1 minute each for each one of you. We're going to continue the discussion next week. Between now and next week, we will have known what the developments are. We'll have known the actions of the president and that of the US, EU, and the United Kingdom. We'll have known where, when the NJC met today, they gave Onoge and the acting 7 days query to respond to. By then, we'll have known what the actions should be. What your last take on this program, Dr. Dawo?
My clear statement remains is that corruption is a cancer that is destroying the very fabric of our country, of Nigeria. And by every means necessary or possible, whether symmetric or asymmetric, the leadership of our country need to rise up and be bold enough, be courageous enough to destroy the very root of corruption in our country. And I support wholly, completely the actions of Mr. President to confront this disease.
Kingsley?
I think as far as I'm concerned, the former CJ and Onege remains lawfully as appointed by the Constitution, the acting CJN of Nigeria, and whoever has been appointed presently is a fraud and should obviously step down.
I agree with Dr. that corruption is a cancer that should be dealt with once and for all. But that must be done according to the laws of the land. Justice should be seen to be applied to everybody, not selective.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We're going to continue this discussion next week. I want you to enter this into your diary. Okay. Between now and next week, we will have nowhere we stand. This is not going to go. It is either the acting CGN continues, or Onoge continues, or Mr. President resigns its action. We don't know, but between now and next week, we'll have a clear picture of what is happening in Nigeria's judiciary, and we will all come here to review the situation. Gentlemen, Kingsley Oyemene, thank you for joining us on the program. Dr. Edel Phillips, thank you for your time. And Malcolm Martin, thank you for your time. I'll see you guys next week as we continue the discussion. Let's go on a short break. I've got another guest coming into the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The totality of what makes man is what we bring to you here on Newspunch. We'll give you the information that you need, from business to economy to politics to technology. And that's all we do here on Newspunch, from the beginning to the end. And that is why we are here. Keep watching Newspunch from Ben Television.
Let's go, go! Of the greatest battle. Another challenge, you know. Another challenge, you know. Politicians, freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be justice. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be justice. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be freedom. Freedom come by struggle, freedom come. In Nigeria there must be freedom. Freedom. What a runaway, my God. When I remember the dictatorship, I remember Buhari. What a runaway, my God. When I remember Buhari, I remember lifelessness. What a runaway, my God. When I remember I remember joblessness. What a runaway, my God. America must not allow military. America must not allow anarchy. America must not allow. America should understand that Nigeria is the bedrock of African Nigeria, the first Africa.
To economy, to business, technology,
All right, thank you for joining us on the program. Away from politics now, let's look at other issues around life and development away from politics happening in Nigeria. Joining me in the studio today is Esther Ogunbaije. We'll be taking a look at who is also an author. She's been privileged. She's authored a couple of books now, up to 9 books. She's taken the time out, a mother, a full-time worker, and also she's taking the time out to author 9 books here in this country, United Kingdom. Esther Ogunbaije, madam, thank you for joining us on the program today. When I met your husband and he told me about you, that you authored 9 books, I was like, how did she do that? Has she got no any other job? How can somebody in this very busy country? Tell us about it. Tell us, how did you do it? Is it your kind of a passion, or do you have any other thing you do? It's just that you just sit down and write books.
Yeah, thank you very much. I work and I'm a mother.
You're a mother and you also have your full-time job.
Yeah.
You also have the time to write books.
Yeah, it's a matter of determination and being focused.
Yeah. There are people watching this program who have dreams, but those dreams are clogged by the hustling and the bustling of our environment. But you tend not to have allowed the pressure, both psychological, emotional, spiritual, financial pressure of the United Kingdom to kill your dreams of being an author and a publisher. For the people watching this program, what advice, how do you advise them to move on to achieving their dream in this busy world?
Number one thing is to have a dream. Then having a dream is not enough. When you have a dream, you have to plan for the dream and be focused. A dream without planning, without focus, will just be swept under the carpet. It won't go anywhere.
As a mother?
So as a mother, I plan my time. I make sure when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm not at work, my time is scheduled. So I know when I'm working, I know the time for family, and when God gives me an inspiration, I go on straight and I do it.
All right, let's go through some of the... I know you brought 3 of those books you have authored.
Yeah.
Can you remember your first book?
Yeah.
What is it?
My first book is Beware of Delilah.
Beware of Delilah. All right, that's your first book, Beware of Delilah.
Yeah.
And your second book?
Second book, I won't say second book per se, because sometimes I publish books not because of how they come. Yeah. It depends on how I'm being led to publish them.
Okay.
So, like, Move On, The Beloved, Tired of Life Challenges, they are books that I wrote almost at the same time.
Published almost at the same time?
They're with maybe like a
year
in between.
Let's look at Tired of Life Challenges. What inspired you to writing Tired of Life? Of course, that is everyone. Look, there are 1001 times one feels like, can I go
on? Yeah. I wrote Tired of Life Challenges I got the inspiration on the very day I was laid off at work.
You were laid off at work?
Yeah, because I was working. But before then, I had the calling of God upon my life, and I gave God time, which I've forgotten, and I asked God, I just don't want to be seen as lazy or maybe writing because I don't have any work to do. So I asked God, give me so time to work, and I was prospering on the work. But before then, God was always also ministering, letting me know that my time at the secular work then back in Nigeria was running to an end. So suddenly I was laid off. So when I got home, it was kind of, oh God, so where do I start now? I know you've called me and I'm ready to do the work, but it's just too sudden. So where do I start from? And as I knelt down and I cried to God, it just came to me, are you tired of life challenges? That's a means to the end. Then I put it down. God was like, now I've let you do your will. Now it's time for you to do my will. And he started bringing the messages to me.
About the third or fourth book you wrote was a personal life experience emanating from you being laid off from work and then being tired of everything God said to you, and you're tired of challenges of life. Tell me, so if people are faced with the challenges of life, what are the steps you think they can take to overcome those challenges?
First thing is, sometimes when we're faced with problems in life, we try to shift the blame on the devil. Sometimes it might not be the devil. God might have hand in what we're going through. It might be the lessons, or there's some things that God wants to teach us, or God is preparing us for. Virtually, I can say almost all the books I've written, they've come to me like when I'm facing challenges, and God bringing the lessons out of those challenges.
But there are certain challenges one faces that are born out of either ignorance, one's stupidity, or one's foolishness.
Sometimes we may face life challenges because of our stupidity or ignorance, but even in our ignorance, God can still teach us. Like life is a teacher, is telling us.
So that's on that book of yours. Life is a teacher.
It's a teacher. It's telling us that God speaks to us in all circumstances of life, even in our mistakes, in our hurts, in our pains, in our joy, in whatever situation we are passing through. But sometimes we only think is God speaks to us maybe in our dream, or through the Bible, or when we're listening to messages from preachers.
So God speaks to us even through the issues of life. So that led to that book you called Life is a Teacher. Take us through that book, Life is a Teacher. What are the things you'd found that could be one could learn from life?
There are many things to learn in life, in as much as we're living, and we can learn from anything, we can learn from anybody, we can learn from any circumstance of life. It depends on our attitude towards what we're going through at a certain time.
So we have Beware of Delilah, we have Tired of Life's Challenges. We had Life is a Teacher. We have Move On. But how did they go in sequence? Life, Tired of Life Challenges, Life is a Teacher, and Move On. You get those situations in sequence, and then you find it so easy to put those things down, and then the next thing you go to publication.
Because I believe in life, whatever God has gifts, we are gifted in different areas, and in any area we are gifted that God has given us gifts, it's simple. It's like as ABC. Just like ask me to talk on engineering work now is I can't. But when it comes to maybe just mere reading the Word of God, God can expand any verse, any word, anything, and something comes out.
One of the greatest problems people have in this part of the world is immigration and financial. In fact, major problem. Plus including family matters. People who are looking for partners, or people who have partners but are having challenges over their children. And that's a huge challenge in this part of the world, not as where we're coming from. Tell me, how does one deal with these challenges?
What I found out in life is always about about challenges. As we're moving out of one, you're going into another one, unless when we die. We can't come out.
We can't actually be free from fighting a battle
of life. But we have to make sure we are really grounded in the Word of God. Because when we have the Word of God in us, and we know how to seek God's face, not as Mr. A did it and he broke through.
But there are people, I'm sorry for cutting you short, but there are people who don't even believe in God and are doing very well. Say, for instance, look at this country. This country used to be a Christian country, but all of a sudden the percentage of people who go to church now keeps going down on the... So now in this country, we have more people who do not, even the so-called Christians who really praise, and they're doing very well.
Yeah. When we're talking about prosperity, I want us to be clear about something. One can be prosperous in material stuff, but we need to live a balanced life, and we need a balanced diet. When we're talking about balanced diet, we're talking about spiritual food at the same time as nutritional food that we need for our body. So when we're talking about prosperity, is possible for somebody to be prospering, to have material wealth, and at the same time not have spiritual wealth. And that is why when you see some people that are making it, any little problem like this, when a child of God, somebody that is well grounded in the word of God, will persevere, will stand, and will be strong, and will break through, they quickly feel they're depressed.
They're depressed.
They're
and
depressed.
They're probably thinking of
suicide
or
something else. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to this book, Life is a Teacher.
Yeah.
That book looks, the title is kind of inspiring. Life is a Teacher.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the things life has taught you. That's made you put that, look, I've gone through life, man. Life is a teacher indeed.
I remember the day I got the inspiration for this book. I was going to work. I was on bus 177, and I just sat down on the upper deck, and I was thinking in my mind what I've gone through, and I nearly wept. Then in my mind, I was questioning God, why did you allow me to go through all what I've gone through in life? Even some people, like you said, they don't know God, they don't pray, they don't study the word of God, and they haven't gone through half of what I've gone through. And some are even older than I am, yet they haven't even gone through what I've gone through. Then God ministered into my heart that God will allow us to go through some stuff that are really necessary for us, maybe for our development, maybe to teach us, maybe there's blessings in what we're going through that God wants to pass to reach to people. And like when we are being comforted, we can comfort people that are going through. And I began. Then God was ministered to me. Look, it's not about what you have passed through. It's about how I've been faithful in what you have passed through. And it's about what I've taught you and what I want people to know about those things. And like as an author, God began, and I began to put them down. Then, so if I remember something, so God, it was like a conversation, even though I was on a bus and nobody was saying what was going on, but I picked my pen, okay, in this situation, what have I learned from there? Then it began, and it began to roll, and it began to roll and continue.
And so you now gradually put some of those lessons that life has taught you into book for people to read and understand that when they go through life challenges, something they are learning something. And they should understand, open their heart to see what God is teaching them in that situation of life. All right. And then, so when they now come to understand what life has taught them, they need to move on.
They need to move on.
And then you have your book,
move on. Because in life, it's not enough to have good dream. The Bible portion for this book is Exodus 14.
It's kind of lengthy. Move on. It's kind of lengthy.
It's the Bible portion for it where this book was taken from is book of Exodus 14, when the children of Israel, when they were leaving the land of Egypt, they were enthusiastic. They wanted to go out to the promised land that God promised them, and they were happy. To them, when they left, they were happy. We have got our freedom now. We're going to the promised land. They never knew there was Red Sea in front, and they never knew that Pharaoh would pursue them. So also in life, we have dreams. I have a good dream. I'm going to become like this. I'm going to do like this. But after taking the initial step or steps, there are challenges, then some people just let their dream die at that stage. They're like, I can't go on. I'm tired of this now. I can't move on. And they stop. So many people
What do you say to such people?
what I say, like what I've said in this book, one of the chapter says, move on. God can part the sea. He can change the tide. We see God asked them to move on. To ordinary eyes, to just mere looking, you're like, how are they going to go? Because there was a vast sea before them, and Pharaoh was very close to them. But they were asked to move on. They didn't get their breakthrough until they step forward. Sometimes we just need little courage to take a little step forward, and we have a breakthrough. And sometimes it may not even be a little step forward. Little step taking forward towards our goal over time take us to where we're going.
Right. I'm still joined here in the studio by Esther Ogumbaije, who out of a very busy schedule of life, she's been able to author 9 books, and those books, they appear to me, they are in sequence. One is Life is a Teacher, the other is Move On, the other is Tired of Life Challenges. What about other ones?
The Beloved.
The Beloved.
Yeah.
And
we have The Beloved, The Valiant People of God.
The Valiant People of God.
Against all hope.
Against all hope.
Hope in God.
Hope in God.
And looking unto God in all circumstances of life.
Right. 9 of them. 9 of them. Yeah. Madam, what I would just say to you, I need you to talk to my viewers at home who have dreams, but they have become tired of life as a result of the challenges they are going through. You've been able to turn your challenges, your troubles, your trauma, you've been able to turn them around into books that people can read, and they've become a source of income today. Not just income, but inspiring people. I need you to look at my viewers at home and say something to somebody who is down as a result of the issues of life.
What I would say is tough
Whether
time.
Christian or
Yeah,
not Christian.
tough time, they do come to anybody in life, but only tough people that overcome. And as the night never lasts, no matter how thick the darkness of the night is, there is always light, the breaking of the day. The Bible says joy cometh in the morning. Even weeping may endure for a night. So there is always a light at the end of the tunnel if we don't give up.
Right. In case my viewers want to read some of your books, how do we get these books?
I can be reached on my phone.
Yes.
074
780
444 54.
That's your phone number.
Yeah, my husband's phone number as well. Yeah, which is 079 88 67 29 33. Yeah.
Right. Email
and
address?
I can be reached on my email address.
Yes.
Esther.
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 Yes.
AMI.
Esther
18,
Ami.
18 at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
And
all right.
And my husband's Gmail as well.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Esther Ami 18 at gmail.com. That's fine.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this program and you need to speak with Esther Ogumbaije, you need to get copies of the book, so you need some counseling, you can reach out 074 780 44454 or 07988672933. We all have dreams. We should do what we need to do. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. My name is Tunde Alabi. Madam, thank you for joining us on the program today. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Business, technology, the totality of what makes man is what we bring to you here on Newspunch. We give you the information that you need, from business to economy, to politics, to technology. And that's all we do here on Newspunch, from the beginning to the end. And that is why we are here. Keep watching.